Don't play the blame game. This is super weird for me to do a video called this or about this because I hate it when my mom says that. She said that to me my whole life growing up, don't play the blame game. And I hated it so much because sometimes I swear to God, even if it wasn't my fault, she'd be like, oh, don't play the blame game. I swear to God, that actually wasn't my fault that time. So, and it is a very good advice. Sometimes she just kind of took it a little far. But you have to be able to check yourself. You have to. It's part of growing. It's part of being a good person. It's part of being a good parent. It's part of being a kind person and just overall having good energy. You have to be able to check yourself. Now, I have made mistakes and all kinds of wrong decisions and everything else. But I also know how to check myself. I also know how to own what I did wrong or what I could have done differently. And I've even done this in a past relationship with somebody doing me dirty and betraying me and being sneaky behind my back and things like that. But I still checked myself. I still said, what did you do? What part did you play in what happened? And honestly, it can really help you. And the thing that I really see a lot of this with parents and siblings as well, who obviously you'll do anything to defend and protect your kids or your siblings or your best friends or whatever. But making excuses for their wrong choices or blaming somebody else why they screwed up or why it happened to them, that doesn't allow them to grow. It doesn't allow them to learn from their mistakes. Now, I'm sure we all know someone, if they could get fired from every job and it's never their fault. Or they could get cut from every team. It's never their fault though. So when you raise somebody, you raise this human and you're constantly making excuses why they're in trouble, why they're suspended from school, why they're in fights all the time, why people want to fight them all the time, or why people are mean to them. All these things that are happening, yes, it's sure, it's not always their fault, but humans need to be taught to own their own shit, not to blame on everybody else. My life sucks because he hurt me, or, I have a hard time doing this because nobody loved me when I was little, or, just crazy amounts of blaming everybody else. Nobody is in charge of your life but you. So wherever your life is right now, sorry, not sorry, those are your choices. Those are your decisions that put you where you are. And the longer you spend your life blaming everybody else, okay, the longer you make yourself stuck. Now, the blame game, I feel like it's even worse now because of social media, and you can spend all day projecting your crap on everyone else instead of checking yourself. Now, if I can check myself in one of the darkest things that happened to me, or one of the shittiest experiences that I had with an ex-boyfriend or whatever, if I can still check myself and say, what did you do? What part did you play in this happening? Now, cheating, never acceptable. Never. I will never condone cheating. But I am saying when people cheat, there's a reason usually. Or people are going and getting attention or someone to listen to them or respect or whatever it is that they're going to look for. There's a reason. Now, blaming, it's never to be like you're bad and your decisions suck and you. No, it's just to say that the more you blame other people, the less you're checking yourself. And I know that parents and siblings will go out of their way to make excuses. They will go out of their way to blame. I'm thinking it's because their child is perfect in their eyes no matter what. So let's say somebody's son goes and beats up his girlfriend, is that mom going to be like, what the hell is wrong with you? Or is she going to be like, oh, what did she do? Did she make him mad? She cheated on him a long time anyway. So, obviously he's going to hit her. Like, I'm just making up shit that sometimes I've heard it. Sometimes it's made up. But sometimes, most of the time, it's true that this has actually happened to somebody. And it's scary that parents are so focused on how perfect their child is to them that they don't ever check them. They don't ever say, why did you do that? Like, we don't do that. That isn't nice. Or you do not hit. Like, you do not scream at your parents. You do not disrespect. These types of things a lot, especially nowadays. I feel like it's way worse nowadays that doesn't happen anymore. So you now have adults, and racism is a big thing now as well. Like, they got cut from the team because they're this race. Maybe they didn't have the talent. Like, that's an excuse, right? Yeah, sometimes it could be true, but maybe they're just not, the talent isn't there. The commitment isn't there. Maybe it has nothing to do with race at all. You can't be giving somebody an out every time something doesn't go their way. If they can't keep their job. Okay, well, they haven't been able to keep the last 5 jobs. Is it still everybody else? Maybe it's them. Like, maybe it's them that needs to change something. And not playing the blame game, it really is one of the best things ever. And honestly, I know that everybody knows there is no shittier feeling when you have no one to blame but yourself. I personally hate that when I screw up and I'm like, well, that was my fault. And now I have to own it. I have to figure it out, deal with why I did that. And I've seen so many people that, like, they'll change their belief depending on who did it, right? So let's say you are against cheating. Cheating, horrible thing to do to somebody, right? Now let's say your brother did it, or your uncle did it, or your best friend cheated. Then all of a sudden, everyone's got all these excuses and all these blame and all this stuff. Why? It's okay that they did it. Justifying that, oh, you know what? Like, I'm not surprised they cheated. But when it's somebody else, they hate cheating. If it happened to them, fuck that bitch. Like, she's a homewrecker and all this stuff. You just changed your mind depending on who did it. You either hate cheating or you don't. What? Like, you don't change what you think depending on who did it. Rape isn't okay no matter who does it. And then there's some people that are like, oh, if it's your uncle, then, it's brushed under the rug. Same with people inboxing other people's men or other people's women. People got all excuses for that when it's their relative or when it's their boyfriend. All these excuses. There is no excuses. There is no blame. Check yourself. Let them check themselves. Why did you do that? Own it. You fucked up. Own it. Learn from it. You're never, ever going to get anywhere in life blaming. Never. Blaming is so that you do not have to own your part in it. And I'm saying this because I've done this. I check myself all the time. More than anybody else. I own up to my own crap. Like, if I made a mistake, I'm woman enough to admit it. I'm woman enough to own it. And, like, you grow from it. Let them learn from it. Especially with little kids, because that's where they absorb the most information. That's where they learn the most. So if you have your perfect little child that doesn't do anything wrong, it's never their fault, you now have an adult that thinks nothing is ever their fault. They can go and treat people like shit. It's not their fault, though. The more excuses you give the little ones, the more adults you have with unlimited excuses. Never accepting consequences. Never owning their own shit. Never checking themselves. So when they're little, That is the most important spot where you need to teach them. That is where they absorb it the most. They know not to hit. They know not to disrespect their parents. They know how to, like, they know consequences. That's why timeouts are a big thing. So it's always to help you. It's never to attack anybody or be like, you know what, it's never negative. The more you know how to check yourself, the better you can get. The more you learn from the mistakes that you've made and own the mistakes that you've made, the better you're going to get. The more you're going to grow, the better person you become. And that was probably one of the best lessons that I ever learned. As much as I hated it so much when my mom would say, don't blame game. I'm like, that wasn't my fault that time. Like, I would get so mad. But she's right. There were so many things that I was like, well, this happened. She goes, oh, well, you know what? You could have did it better. And honestly, it's true. And even in my life now, I will still check myself first. I will still own my own shit, even now. So, I really hope that it kind of opens somebody's eyes. If you ever notice that, if you're one of those people that's always, it's everybody else's problem, it's never me. I mean, sometimes it's us. Like, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. So comment, share. Like, I want to hear what people have to think about it. And I hope that it really does help somebody maybe not even realize that they were doing it. It's okay to check yourself. It's okay to admit that you made a mistake. We're all human. We all make shitty decisions. It's just a thing. It's part of life. And it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to make a wrong decision. Just own it. Get better. You can be bitter or you can be better. Okay? Bye.